When your mind won't rest, Holy Spirit, stay with me tonight. The night has a way of removing what the day carefully protects. All day long, you function, you respond, you decide. You hold yourself together because something depends on you doing so. There is always a reason to stay composed, always a task that demands attention, always someone who needs you to be steady. The mind cooperates with this rhythm. It prioritizes action over truth. It postpones emotion in the name of survival. But when the lights go off and the noise fades, that agreement ends. The night does not create new thoughts. It gives space to the ones that were never allowed to speak. This is why the mind feels louder after dark. Not because it is out of control, but because it is no longer restrained by urgency. What you call restlessness is often honesty finally finding room. During the day, you wear what is required: confidence, strength, calm. You answer questions without asking your own. You solve problems without checking how much weight they add inside you. You move forward because stopping would be inconvenient. Necessary, maybe, but inconvenient. At night, there is no performance to maintain. The mind does not need to impress anyone. It does not need to be efficient. It does not need to protect an image. And so it removes the mask. Not to punish you, but to tell the truth you did not have time to hear. This is where many people misunderstand themselves. They assume that a restless night means something is wrong with them, that their faith is weak, that they should be more peaceful by now, that if they trusted God enough, their thoughts would simply disappear. That assumption adds pressure where compassion is needed. The mind does not calm down when it is judged. It calms down when it feels accompanied. What surfaces at night is not evidence of failure. It is evidence of accumulation, accumulated responsibility, accumulated restraint, accumulated emotions that were managed, postponed, and set aside so the day could move forward. You were not dishonest during the day. You were practical. But practicality has a cost, and the bill often arrives when there is finally silence. This is why forcing calm does not work at night. This is why telling yourself to relax only creates more tension. You are asking the mind to be quiet without first allowing it to be heard. You are trying to silence something that is still holding unspoken weight. The night does not demand solutions. It demands acknowledgement. And this is where the presence of the Holy Spirit becomes essential. Not as a tool to suppress thought, but as a presence that changes the environment in which thought exists. The Holy Spirit does not enter your mind to argue with your worries. He does not shame your questions. He does not rush your process. He brings companionship. When the mind senses it is no longer alone with what it carries, it begins to loosen its grip. Not all at once, not dramatically, but honestly, gradually, naturally. This is why peace cannot be commanded. It has to be received. Peace is not a mental achievement. It is a relational response. It arrives when the internal pressure to manage everything alone is finally released. The night reveals what the day conceals, not to overwhelm you, but to invite you into a different way of being held. You are not meant to process everything by yourself. You were never designed to carry clarity, responsibility, and uncertainty without presence. The Holy Spirit does not wait for you to organize your thoughts before He comes close. He comes into the disorder. He stays in the tension. He meets you exactly where your mind feels exposed. Nothing needs to be fixed in this moment. Nothing needs to be decided. The purpose of this night is not resolution. It is relief. When the masks come off, it is not because you are unsafe. It is because you are finally in a space where honesty is allowed. And honesty is not dangerous when it is met with presence. This night is not here to break you down. It is here to let you stop holding everything together. Control feels comforting until the mind becomes exhausted by it. Most people are taught, directly or indirectly, that calm is something you produce. That if your thoughts are racing, it means you have failed to manage them properly. So when night arrives and the mind refuses to settle, the instinct is to tighten control, to monitor every thought, to push away anything uncomfortable, to force the body into stillness and hope the mind follows. This approach works during the day because energy is available. Focus is fueled by movement, by deadlines, by external structure. At night, that fuel is gone. The mind no longer responds to pressure because it is tired of being managed. Control fails at night not because it is wrong, but because it is incomplete. Control addresses behavior. It does not address burden. And what the mind carries after dark is not a behavior problem. It is a weight problem. The more you try to dominate your thoughts, the more they resist, not out of rebellion, but out of fatigue. The mind is signaling that it cannot continue performing without being supported. This is why strategies that rely on force often backfire at night. They create a quiet internal conflict where the mind feels both tired and trapped. There is a difference between directing the mind and listening to it. Direction requires authority. Listening requires presence. Authority alone creates compliance for a season. Presence creates safety, and safety is what allows the mind to rest. When the mind is tired, it does not need more discipline. It needs permission to stop defending itself. Many of the thoughts that surface at night are not demands for answers. They are expressions of pressure that was never released. This is where surrender is often misunderstood. Surrender is not the abandonment of responsibility. It is the decision to stop carrying responsibility alone. It is not passivity. It is partnership. The Holy Spirit does not replace your mind. He relieves it. He does not take over your thinking. He steadies it. His presence changes the posture of the mind from vigilance to openness. Control says, stay alert or everything will fall apart. Presence says, you are allowed to rest and nothing will be lost. At night, the mind is especially sensitive to threat. Not always external threat, but the internal threat of unfinished outcomes. Questions about tomorrow. Consequences you cannot yet see. Responsibilities that have no clear resolution. Control attempts to protect you from uncertainty by keeping everything active. But constant alertness is not protection. It is exhaustion. The Holy Spirit introduces a different kind of safety. Not the safety of certainty, but the safety of being accompanied through uncertainty. This is why surrender begins to feel like relief when control begins to fail. You do not have to force yourself into trust. Trust emerges when the pressure to manage outcomes is lifted, when you stop rehearsing worst-case scenarios, not because you solved them, but because you are no longer alone with them. Control is rooted in fear of loss. Surrender is rooted in confidence of care. One tightens the mind, the other allows it to breathe. This is not about letting your thoughts run wild. It is about changing the environment in which they exist. When the Holy Spirit is invited into that environment, thoughts lose their urgency. Not because they disappear, but because they no longer carry the same threat. The mind rests when it knows that vigilance is no longer required, that someone else is present, attentive, and capable of holding what you cannot resolve tonight. This is why control fails when the mind is tired. It asks for strength where strength is no longer available. Presence offers support where effort cannot reach. Letting go at night is not giving up. It is choosing rest over resistance. Restlessness rarely begins at the surface of the mind. It begins deeper in places that were never given language during the day. What keeps you awake at night is often not the thought itself, but what the thought represents. A sense of exposure. A quiet fear that something important is unresolved. An awareness that control is thinner than it felt a few hours earlier. Most nighttime anxiety is not loud panic. It is subtle. It feels like vigilance, like the mind is standing guard, scanning for what might go wrong if it relaxes. Beneath that vigilance is fear, not always fear of danger, but fear of losing stability, identity, or direction. During the day, fear is kept in check by movement. You stay busy, you stay useful, you stay ahead of what you feel. But fear does not disappear when ignored. It waits, and night gives it room. This fear is rarely dramatic. It sounds like responsibility. It disguises itself as preparation. It tells you that if you stop thinking, you might miss something essential. That rest could be careless. That peace might be premature. The mind convinces itself that alertness is protection. But alertness without rest slowly turns into strain. The body grows tired, yet the mind refuses to stand down because it believes something is at risk. Often, what is truly feared is not failure, but helplessness. The fear of reaching a point where effort no longer guarantees outcome. The fear of trusting something unseen. The fear of letting go and discovering that control was the only thing holding everything together. This is why night feels threatening to some people. Not because darkness is dangerous, but because it removes distractions. It confronts the mind with its own limits. It exposes the truth that there are outcomes you cannot secure through thought alone. The Holy Spirit does not confront fear by dismissing it. He does not tell you that fear is irrational or unnecessary. He meets fear with presence because fear loses strength when it is no longer isolated. Fear grows loud when it feels responsible for protection. It quiets when protection is shared. This is where many people misunderstand faith. Faith is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to remain present while fear no longer dictates behavior. It is the shift from guarding the future to being held in the present. The Holy Spirit restores calm by redirecting trust. Not toward positive thinking, but toward companionship. Not toward certainty, but toward care. When fear senses that it is no longer in charge, it begins to loosen. It does not vanish instantly. It softens. It steps back. It stops demanding constant attention. Night restlessness often means you have been carrying more responsibility than you were meant to carry alone. Fear stepped in to help you cope. It stayed alert because it believed no one else would. Inviting the Holy Spirit into this space changes that belief. Fear no longer has to perform as protector. The mind no longer has to stay awake to prevent collapse. This is not denial, it is relief. When fear is acknowledged and met with presence, it loses its urgency. It no longer needs to rehearse scenarios or scan for threats. It learns that safety does not come from vigilance, but from being accompanied. The mind begins to rest not because everything is resolved, but because it senses that resolution is no longer its responsibility tonight. This is how fear beneath restlessness begins to release its grip, not through confrontation, but through trust. The Holy Spirit does not calm the mind by silencing it. He restores order by changing what the mind is responding to. Most people assume peace comes from removing thoughts. They wait for the mind to go quiet before they believe rest is possible. But the mind was never designed to be empty. It was designed to be aligned. Disorder does not come from thinking. Disorder comes from carrying too much without support. Inner chaos is not the presence of many thoughts. It is the absence of a stabilizing presence. The Holy Spirit restores inner order by reestablishing priority, not by ranking tasks or solving problems, but by reminding the mind what it no longer has to manage alone. His presence reorganizes attention. Thoughts that once felt urgent begin to feel smaller, not because they disappeared, but because something greater is now holding the center. Order returns when responsibility shifts. When the mind believes it is the sole guardian of outcomes, it stays alert. It keeps reviewing. It keeps preparing. It keeps circling the same concerns because it feels accountable for preventing loss. The Holy Spirit does not remove responsibility. He removes isolation. This is why his presence feels grounding rather than stimulating. He does not speed the mind up. He slows its need to react. He creates space between thought and urgency. In that space, discernment replaces panic. Inner order is not control. It is orientation. The Holy Spirit gently reorients the mind away from future threat and back into present trust. He does not demand that you stop thinking about tomorrow. He simply reminds you that tomorrow does not need to be managed right now. This shift is subtle, but powerful. Thoughts lose their edge. Questions soften. Concerns no longer demand immediate resolution. The mind remains active, but it is no longer tense. Many people confuse peace with numbness. But the Holy Spirit does not numb the mind. He clarifies it. He allows you to see thoughts without being consumed by them. He teaches the mind how to observe without carrying. Order returns when the mind realizes it does not have to hold everything at once. The Holy Spirit brings a sense of internal structure that does not rely on answers. He does not say everything will work out and leave it at that. He communicates something deeper. You are not alone with what you do not yet understand. This awareness creates stability. The mind stops bracing for impact. It stops scanning for danger. It stops rehearsing outcomes. Not because it became careless, but because it became secure. Security is what restores order. The Holy Spirit stays present without rushing resolution. He is comfortable in the unfinished space. And because he is, the mind learns it does not need to rush either. This is how rest begins. Not as sleep, but as internal alignment. A sense that things are in their proper place even if they are not yet complete. When the Holy Spirit restores inner order, you do not feel detached from your life. You feel rightly positioned within it. You are aware, but not overwhelmed. Engaged, but not strained. This prepares the ground for the next shift. Because once order is restored, a deeper question emerges. If I am no longer holding everything together, what does it mean to let go without losing myself? Letting go sounds simple until you realize what you believe will disappear with it. For many people, control is not just a habit, it is an identity. You learned early that staying alert kept things stable, that being responsible kept others safe, that holding everything together gave you a sense of worth. Over time, vigilance stopped feeling like effort and started feeling like who you are. So when the idea of release appears, it feels threatening. Not because you don't want peace, but because peace feels unfamiliar. You wonder who you would be if you stopped managing everything. You wonder what would remain if you loosened your grip. This is why letting go is often resisted, even when exhaustion is real. The fear is not of rest. The fear is of losing yourself. You tell yourself that if you stop thinking ahead, something will fall apart. That if you stop anticipating needs, you will fail someone. That if you stop carrying responsibility internally, you will become careless or disconnected. These fears feel logical because control has been rewarded in the past. But control is not the same as care. Care is rooted in connection. Control is rooted in anxiety. One sustains you. The other drains you. The Holy Spirit does not ask you to abandon who you are. He asks you to release what you were never meant to carry alone. There is a difference between responsibility and over-identification. Responsibility is healthy. Over-identification makes responsibility feel like survival. Letting go does not erase your values, it clarifies them. It does not weaken your commitment, it stabilizes it. When you stop equating worth with constant management, you begin to discover a steadier version of yourself. This version is not passive, it is present. The Holy Spirit teaches release without loss by separating identity from outcome. You are not defined by how well things turn out. You are not measured by how many variables you successfully control. You are valued because you exist, not because you perform. This realization does not happen all at once. It unfolds as the mind begins to trust that presence is not conditional, that you are not being evaluated in the quiet, that rest does not disqualify you from purpose. As this trust grows, something shifts internally. You notice that letting go does not make you disappear. It makes you more grounded, less reactive, more honest about what you can and cannot carry. You begin to feel yourself again, not as a role, but as a person. This is where true stability forms, not from tightening structure, but from internal alignment. You stop resisting rest because rest no longer feels like surrendering your identity. It feels like returning to it. The Holy Spirit does not strip away your strength. He removes the pressure that distorted it. What remains is a strength that does not require constant effort to prove itself. This is the moment many people overlook. Letting go is not an ending. It is a transition. A shift from self-maintained stability to shared support. From internal strain to relational trust. Once this shift occurs, a new tension appears. If I am no longer holding everything together, what happens to tomorrow? How do I face what comes next without falling back into anxiety? That question opens the door to what comes next. The mind struggles at night because it keeps trying to live in a time that does not belong to it. Tomorrow has a strong pull on tired thoughts. When the body slows down, the future steps forward. Plans, consequences, unfinished decisions, and imagined outcomes begin to take center stage. The mind starts rehearsing what has not happened yet, as if vigilance could prevent uncertainty. This is where peace quietly slips away. Tomorrow feels urgent at night because there is nothing else competing for attention. During the day, action gives the illusion of control. At night, action is gone and the future feels exposed. The mind responds by trying to move forward mentally, believing that preparation will create safety. But the mind was never designed to live ahead of the body. Peace cannot exist in a future that has not arrived. It only exists where life is actually happening. And life is happening now. The Holy Spirit gently redirects attention back to the present, not by dismissing tomorrow, but by restoring proper boundaries. Tomorrow has its place, but that place is not this moment. When the mind tries to cross that boundary, it carries weight it was not meant to carry yet. This is why nighttime anxiety often feels vague. The mind is reacting to possibilities rather than realities. It is attempting to resolve outcomes that do not yet exist. That effort creates strain without progress. The Holy Spirit does not promise that tomorrow will be easy. He promises that you do not have to enter tomorrow depleted. His work is not to explain the future, but to preserve your strength in the present. When attention returns to now, something subtle happens. The urgency fades. The pressure to prepare loosens. The mind stops racing ahead because it realizes it is no longer responsible for what has not arrived. Trust begins here, not as a declaration, but as a posture. Trust is allowing the present moment to be enough. It is resisting the impulse to mentally escape into planning when rest is what is required. It is recognizing that carrying tomorrow early does not make you wiser. It makes you tired. The Holy Spirit teaches the mind how to stay where it is, not through force, but through reassurance. He communicates stability without answers. He offers grounding without guarantees. This does not mean you stop caring about what comes next. It means you stop sacrificing the present in an attempt to control the future. Care becomes lighter when it is placed in its proper time. Many people fear that if they stop thinking about tomorrow, they will be unprepared. In reality, rest prepares you better than anxiety ever could. A rested mind discerns more clearly. A calm heart responds more wisely. The night is not meant to solve what is coming. It is meant to restore what has been spent. When the Holy Spirit draws your attention back to now, rest becomes possible. The body softens. The mind releases its grip. Not because tomorrow disappeared, but because it no longer demands to be lived in advance. This is the quiet discipline of trust, staying where you are, allowing this moment to hold you, letting tomorrow wait its turn. And when this boundary is respected, a deeper understanding begins to form. Rest itself is not avoidance. It is a decision, a deliberate act of trust that changes how you move forward. That understanding leads into what comes next. Many people rest only when they feel they have earned it. When tasks are complete, when questions are answered, when outcomes feel secure. Until then, rest feels irresponsible, even dangerous. It feels like stepping away from vigilance before permission has been granted. This belief quietly shapes how people relate to God. They assume rest is something allowed after obedience, after effort, after endurance. But rest was never designed as a reward. It was designed as a declaration. Rest says something. It says you trust that what matters most does not depend entirely on you. It says you believe presence is more sustaining than pressure. It says you are willing to release control without waiting for certainty. This is why true rest feels uncomfortable at first. It confronts the belief that constant effort is what keeps life stable. It challenges the idea that worth is measured by endurance. It exposes how deeply identity has been tied to usefulness. Rest is not passive. It is an intentional act of trust. When you rest, you are not escaping responsibility. You are refusing to let responsibility define your value. You are choosing to believe that care continues even when effort pauses. That provision does not stop when vigilance ends. The Holy Spirit invites rest not because everything is resolved, but because remaining unresolved does not require constant attention. He teaches the mind that awareness does not have to be paired with strain. This is where many people struggle. They equate rest with avoidance. They fear that stopping will make them careless, disconnected, or unprepared. But avoidance numbs awareness. Rest sharpens it. Rest allows the mind to release unnecessary tension while remaining present. It creates space for clarity to form without force. It strengthens discernment rather than weakening it. The Holy Spirit reframes rest as participation rather than withdrawal. You are participating in trust. You are participating in alignment. You are participating in a rhythm that acknowledges human limits without shame. When rest becomes an act of trust, guilt loses its hold. You no longer feel the need to justify stillness. You no longer rush to fill silence with productivity. You allow quiet to exist without immediately trying to use it. This shift changes how the night feels. The darkness no longer demands alertness. The silence no longer feels threatening. The mind begins to associate stillness with safety rather than risk. Rest teaches the mind that nothing essential is lost when effort pauses. That life continues to be held even when you are not actively managing it. This realization is not theoretical. It is experiential. It settles into the body over time. As rest deepens, resistance softens. The internal voice that insists on constant readiness grows quieter, not because it was silenced, but because it was reassured. This is the kind of rest that prepares you for what comes next, not by rehearsing outcomes, but by restoring capacity. It is the kind of rest that strengthens trust rather than suspending it. When rest is embraced as an act of trust, the night no longer feels like something to endure. It becomes a place where confidence is quietly rebuilt. And once trust takes root here, something becomes clear. You are not alone in this night. Presence has been with you all along. There is a quiet lie that often settles in at night. It tells you that once the noise fades and the distractions are gone, you are left alone with everything you could not finish, fix, or understand. It whispers that this is the moment where you must endure by yourself, that everyone else is resting while you remain awake, carrying what feels heavier in the dark. But this night was never meant to isolate you. Loneliness at night does not come from the absence of people. It comes from the belief that you are the only one holding what matters. It comes from the assumption that once activity stops, support disappears. That assumption feels convincing because silence can feel empty when it is misunderstood. Silence is not abandonment. It is space, and space is where presence becomes noticeable. The Holy Spirit does not withdraw when the day ends. He does not leave when the mind grows tired. He does not require your strength to stay near. His presence does not depend on your clarity, your focus, or your ability to remain composed. He stays. He stays when thoughts circle. He stays when fear softens but does not fully leave. He stays when sleep feels distant and time feels slow. He stays not to rush the night away, but to hold you through it. This is what changes everything. Not the sudden disappearance of restlessness, but the realization that you are not carrying it alone. When you understand this, the night takes on a different meaning. It stops being something to survive and becomes something to be held within. The pressure to escape it fades. The urgency to resolve everything loosens its grip. You are allowed to be here, awake or drifting, calm or unsettled, certain or unsure. Presence does not demand a specific state. It meets you in the one you are in. Many people think peace arrives when circumstances finally align. In reality, peace arrives when companionship is recognized, when the mind realizes it does not need to monitor every outcome to remain safe, when the heart understands that it is not unseen in the quiet. This awareness does not always lead immediately to sleep. Sometimes it leads to stillness, sometimes to gentle reflection, sometimes to tears that were waiting for permission. All of these are signs of release, not failure. The night does not ask you to perform. It invites you to rest inside presence. You do not need to reach for the Holy Spirit. He is already here. You do not need to explain yourself. You do not need to justify your weariness. You do not need to make sense of everything you feel. You only need to stop telling yourself that you are alone. This is the truth that settles the mind more deeply than effort ever could. You are not abandoned in the silence. You are accompanied within it. The same presence that sustained you through the day remains with you now, steady and attentive. Nothing essential is at risk in this moment. Nothing meaningful is slipping away because you paused. Nothing fragile is dependent on your vigilance tonight. You are being held. Whether sleep comes quickly or slowly, whether thoughts quiet all at once or fade gradually, this night is not empty. It is filled with presence that does not leave when words end. You are not alone in this night, and you never were. You don't need to carry anything else into this night. Everything that needed your effort today has already received it. Everything that still feels unfinished does not require your strength right now. There is no pressure to stay alert, no reason to keep watch, no obligation to solve what cannot be solved in this moment. Let your breathing slow without forcing it. Let your body rest where it is. Let your thoughts pass without following them. Nothing is being lost by resting. Nothing important is slipping away. The same presence that held you through every moment of this day is here now, steady and unchanging. You are not being evaluated in this quiet. You are not falling behind. You are not forgotten. If sleep comes, receive it without resistance. If wakefulness remains, allow it to be gentle. Either way, you are safe to let go. Holy Spirit, remain near. Settle what feels heavy. Guard what feels fragile. Carry what cannot be carried tonight. This night does not belong to fear. It does not belong to pressure. It belongs to rest, presence, and trust. You are not alone. You are being held, and you can let this moment be enough.